Hey, all.
Jesse, how are you?
Brooke.
Hi.
Congratulations.
Good morning.
How are you feeling?
Thank you. Good. Ready. I'm just like 2 weeks away now. So,
from popping?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, so you're at that wonderful
Thanks.
part.
But when I say ready, I mean my body's ready. I don't know that I'm ready. Like we're much more ready with the first. We were all prepared and
you know the drill.
We've done nothing. Just put the baby in your bed or whatever you have to do.
Yeah, just
set up the back
and to sleep somehow.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Ian.
Hi.
It has been nuts at campus. We actually have this. We're on conference release, which is why I'm at home right now. But the last couple of weeks, my schedule changed. So I have my first block, which coincides into here, and then we have had quite a few outbreaks in the district. We just keep getting notices upon notice upon notice about things, and we're going full remote starting on Wednesday.
Is that district-wide or just middle school, high school?
It'll be middle school, high school. Because of the lack of technology, available technology for all the elementaries as well.
Oh my
because
God.
even though we're a 6A district, we're still a rural district, so we're on the middle range of 6A, mostly because of the size of our high school, but the elementaries are a little bit smaller, and we have 6 of them in the district, and it's nuts. We're getting, like, when we started this week, 75 freshmen were on quarantine.
Oh my gosh.
Started this next 9 weeks. We started school right after Labor Day. So we just had the end of our first 9 weeks last week.
Right.
And what we've been doing is basically we have our Black Day, White Days, which are because we do block schedules. So Black Day or White Day one Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Black Day, Tuesday, Thursday, then we alternate the next week. But we basically did a full 9 weeks worth of White Days. And now we're doing a full 9 weeks worth of semester or Black Days. So basically a semester's worth of work in 9 weeks, which is another reason why I haven't been able to make everything, because I've got to stay on task with all this, and it's kind of crazy.
Sounds intense. Yeah.
And that's why I'm just going ahead and letting everybody know that today is going to be my last day, because of the fact that it's just gotten way too nuts in the district, and I can't keep up with everything, because I really need to focus on my students at the moment. So
I think education has always been underappreciated, and especially now. So thank you for everything you do with.
Mm-hmm.
But if you guys need insight on what's going on COVID related within the schools, you just hit me up, and I can give the insight that I'm able to rather. But yeah, right now it's stressful. It really is.
I'll echo that. My wife is a school nurse here in town, and they're doing everything they can to keep the kids there in person. So the contact tracing she does, I mean, the spreadsheets she has. So if you guys know a school nurse or a teacher, give them a high five, a virtual high five or something, because they're doing a lot of work right now. Kudos to you, Ian, very much so.
Yeah. We also accept bottles of wine.
I may have given a bottle of scotch.
Boxes of wine.
Wine, scotch, you name it, we'll take it. Right now, that's fine.
You know, I got to tell you, Anne's been here since the very beginning. This is the second term on this. We've been doing, 3-month terms to try to get people who can't commit to, I guess, a full year or longer than that. And Anne volunteered to do not just 1 term on this council, but 2. And he's just been amazing. And, I guess, service calls, right? Like, you're calling right now is to help guide the next generation. And you're doing so through one of the worst or toughest times, I think, to be an educator. So we can't thank you enough for giving us the amount of time you have. It's been great. And I know that just knowing you and knowing you for the last, year, yeah, you'll still step up if we need. I think reach out to you. I'm sure that we can get you on a call once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just you've been an example of servitude and really giving it to the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Of course. The guys, I'm sorry I'm a little late. I'm trying to pull up everything. So I'm working from home because I'm quarantined. Is anyone else quarantined? Anyone else have the COVIDs that you want to? You don't have to tell us, but anyone else going through this terrible like quarantine stuff?
I was quarantined a couple weeks ago.
I was too.
Are you quarantined, Sarah? Still?
So
Yes.
Yeah.
I got another week left. We had and as I'm talking to you, so I'm trying to pull up the agenda because I'm working from my Chromebook instead of my real computer. So as I'm talking to you, that's what I'm doing. But we had for those who don't know, what it looks like is an employee might have brought in COVID to our office and didn't know it. And then Johnson caught it, and Brandon Johnson, council member, immediately recognized the symptoms, went and got tested positive, and then just got us all out of there. So just called and got pretty much all the members out of our office area. And then we all went and got tested, or most of us got tested. And Johnson right now, his wife and his daughter, his wife posted on Facebook that they have it as well. So keep them in your thoughts. I think they're doing okay. He says he's doing okay, but it's this thing spreads very fast. And if it wasn't for his fast action, we might actually all have it, all the electeds right now. So crazy times for sure. I'm going to pull up our agenda. I apologize. We can keep chatting, by the way, while I do this.
Oh, I will say one thing that was kind of interesting was a while back I went in and dropped off my ballot for, because I had the ballot. I decided to drop it off at the polling place during the early voting, and I actually had people coming up to me and asking me what it was like about teaching during all this. So I kind of had a little crowd around me at the machinist unit that day, but it was interesting just to give insight to people, because from what a lot of people are hearing and a lot of speculation, there's a lot that that people don't know what the teachers do and what the schools do for the students and what students are doing and also not doing. Like, one of the reasons we have a big outbreak is because we talk about people not being safe in the community. Well, that also happens with our students, because on Halloween, there were all these Halloween parties going on and our kids were going to those. So that in turn can get to parents, which in turn can get to businesses, which in turn just makes everything nuts again. So
that's one reason our entire upper school is on quarantine right now.
Yeah.
Because there were multiple schools, students hosting parties, and like hundreds of kids. Ridiculous.
But it's also a matter of the parents making sure their kids stay on quarantine.
Yeah.
Because then we have those who just whatever. Like some of the parents of some of the kids I teach right now. So it's fun times. I'm not stressed at all. Oh no.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I have someone who's trying to murder me. So yeah, just add on top of all the other, not if virus isn't good enough, we also have, I think, to deal with rough people in our lives. And I think that there was something I read about school nurses that are just getting pummeled right now, where, their kid comes in, tests positive, the nurse is trying to do contact tracing and just getting, I guess, really bad pushback from parents who. And it's interesting with this, I understand it's politically charged. There's a lot to unpack when we talk about COVID. It's causing economic problems. There's a lot of reasons why it triggers negative spots in our brain, right? But it's still kind of almost amazing, I guess, in a bad way, that school nurses and teachers take the blunt of this, right? Like, it's definitely not their fault, right? Like, you can blame me for electeds for not doing enough, but I think that when we're starting to trickle down to making school nurses their lives tougher, that's new, I think. But yeah, thing's awful. Guys, I'm having trouble pulling up. I'm gonna get there though. And we'll get started.
Shall we read to you the agenda? It's right here.
You know what? I don't know if you're trolling me right now or if you're trying to help. No, yeah, probably. What's
Minutes.
I hate Microsoft, by the way. Wait, I might have got it. No, I don't. I need someone to blame. Hey, Jenny, you want to call? No, go ahead. What's the first item of the agenda? Let's go ahead and do that.
Past the welcome, we have the approved the minutes for October 30th.
Has every member had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, is there discussion on the minutes? And you have to speak, by the way, because I don't have you're on my cell phone, so I don't have if you raise your hand physically, I won't be able to see it. All right, there's no discussion on the minutes. I'll make a motion to pass the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Minutes are passed. What's the next item?
The next item is discussion regarding new county health order and enforcement.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, let's jump into that. So I'm a little, I shouldn't get upset with this, right? But like, I feel like we could have done a better job 2 weeks ago, not this council, but us as like local governing folks, kind of getting in front of what we knew would be the likely scenario where unless there was absolute change in the trajectory, which means like you had an interrupting, something that interrupted that, where a vaccine or a new mask order or something, we kind of knew we were getting another bad spot. And it just really bothers me when I got a lot of this, particularly from the service industry, where someone reached out to me I was frustrated. It was late at night, but he reached out and he was a total gentleman about this. But he was pretty much saying, like, you got to give us a heads up. We order produce. We order stuff that is going to be, that goes bad in a few days. We would like a heads up if you're going to enact a type of order that is going to affect our business. And, and I'm frustrated, not because that's unreasonable, but it's like, because that's where we should be going, right? Like, I think we'd be better off if we had somewhat of if the numbers get here, this is likely, but we can't guarantee this will happen, but this is likely how we think the public health community will respond, right? Like, where we can give people somewhat of an idea based, like an educated guess almost, forecast almost of what to expect as these numbers grow. And I feel like, I try to have that conversation with the city council. I don't think they were interested in thinking towards that direction. And then we had these orders come down, and I think there's some people kind of getting in shell shock about what they mean, rightfully so, of course. So anyways, that's my rant about that. But for those who might not know, the healthcare orders coming down are kind of some of the last, I think the last chance we're going to have before we start seeing a more targeted sectors shut down. And this is a complete guess, and I can't stress enough, I don't control this. I'm not even in the room when I talk about this stuff. This is like the one thing the county thinks that they should be completely independent of from the city. So usually city representation isn't in the room at all when we have these discussions. But I'm guessing that if this gets worse, I mean, we're at close to 25% spread, we could start seeing more extreme policy come down. This one here, I think it's capping our bars and restaurants, a curfew at 11 o'clock. I think that it's also going to start affecting half capacity, I believe, for public establishments. And those are the two major, and of course the mask order is in place. That's the two, I think, major differences that this will have on everyday businesses that, for folks who are on this call. Also, there is an enforcement mechanism with this that allows a ticket to be issued pretty much. So the ticket's actually extensive. It's about $400 or $500 if you are someone who's out of compliance. Now, I'll tell you just a little bit about how the city is likely to deal with this. And I don't have the votes and I don't have the policy in front of me. So this is really kind of off the cuff what I'm hearing. We have to do two things. One, pass a resolution allowing the county to enforce within the city of Wichita. So by allowing the county to enforce this, it means that it actually will likely happen. One of the things we learned early on with even a masking ordinance was businesses followed it when it was enforceable. It's not that we had to enforce it; it was that they took it serious. They thought it was, oh, okay, like this. They're not just going through the motions. And then the second part of that is to come up with a plan on pretty much how we want it to go down, how we want it to be enforced, I guess. So what we're thinking is our people on the ground, boots on the ground, our officers, police officers, firefighters, code inspectors. The county ordinance uses language where any like code enforcement officer can enforce this, but they don't say any law enforcement officer. So you could interpret this, I think, in a way in which like even the people who do tickets for parking lots, like they are enforcing a code, right? Like could they actually be part of this? Anyway, so that just kind of gets in a weird legal corner on okay, who's to enforce this, who isn't. I think what we're going to do is try to keep everything normal, where if people are out and about who are code enforcement, they can report back to the county if there is someone who or establishment that's willfully like out of compliance. So, and that's, I think, how it's going to go down. It's not that we will have our cops write tickets. It's that our cops will report back, and then a county will reach out. They're supposed to reach out and give a warning and a chance for warning, education, and chance for correction is how I think that this would want to go down. So Shannon is out doing some huge mosh pit event, and then right, definitely going to happen. Our officer comes by and sees this. The officer might talk to Shannon, tell her what's going on, but instead of whipping out a ticket book and writing a ticket right there, would report it to the county, and then the county health department will reach out to Shannon and tell her to stop doing mosh pits in the middle of a pandemic. And then if Shannon says, no way, I'm going to keep doing it, then the officer will report back that, hey, Shannon's a real crazy person and she's not going to follow this. Then that's when I think they'll issue a ticket or take action. And that's what I'm hearing will happen with the policy and the agreement moving forward. I think that's what the majority of the council is interested in seeing. So again, it still sucks that we have to do this. It's absolutely terrible, but and I'm not a wizard who has a crystal ball, right? But based on everything I know about this and about numbers and trajectories and, following this for the last year, it's going to get worse before it gets better. This thing has done exactly what we predicted it to do because it's a dumb virus. It doesn't change, right? Like it doesn't have strategy or anything. We said, hey, this is going to go up when it gets colder because more people are going to be inside, and also more people are going to let the guard down around their family because it's weird to wear your mask around your mom. And then it did that. it definitely did that. We've seen a bump from Halloween, people having Halloween parties. We've seen a bump from Mother's Day. We've seen a bump from like literally every cultural get together that our society enjoys. And I don't think there's any way we're not going to see a huge bump after Thanksgiving. Like, just, you tell people everything that they need to know, and the problem with this virus is you could have it and have no clue at all that you have it, like none at all. And then you spread it to people who really, Adam says he can't wait to have mosh pits again. I've never been to a mosh pit, but I want this thing to be over so bad that once it is, I might show up to a mosh pit just to enjoy what I've been missing out on. So I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to see a huge bump a week to 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. And that's just because I think Thanksgiving is a big cultural, it's a family feast in the middle of when it's winter time, right? Like, this goes back to like Anglo-Saxon culture. Like, this is a huge thing in our society that we do. Almost no way I think that people are going to call off Thanksgiving in a large amount in which that we're going to not see a bump. Like, it hasn't happened. And right now it's the worst time ever to have a bump. We are at the point where we will literally have ethics boards in a hospital saying who gets to get treatment and who doesn't. Like, we're just at that point now where they have a few levers they can pull, but none of them are easy levers to pull that make a huge difference. So we're in a bad spot. So that's just, I guess, the best way to put it. And I think that as it gets worse, we can see worse orders coming down.
So I have a question about the enforcement part of it. I know that like every city in Sedgwick County would have to adopt the resolution. Mm-hmm. Are there, and if there are fines issued or anything like that, all of that's going to have to be paid through Sedgwick County because it's a Sedgwick County order. Do you guys have to make any kind of amendments to that or additions to that for Wichita PD to be able to do anything, or is that all on the sheriff? Because a couple of nights ago, there was a news report that the sheriff's office on the day that the order came out still said that they were not going to be enforcing. So I don't know how we're going to enforce things if the people who are supposed to be enforcing are walking around without masks and aren't willing to do their part to enforce those things.
It's a pretty slippery slope to be in a position of enforcing laws and deciding which laws you choose to enforce, in my opinion, my humble opinion, right? But he is elected, so he really doesn't have any type of, there's no type of repercussions for not doing your job. But my understanding is it's not, if we have our officers who are reporting back to the county, and that's part of the, sorry, I just got a text, and that's part of the, the agreement, then it bypasses the sheriff, where they can still send out tickets if they need to. They can still send out the stuff that they need to send out without needing to go through the sheriff. So our boots on the ground people might, and that's one of the reasons why this is so important that we come up with a good agreement. I mean, there's a couple of reasons in my opinion. One is it makes sense for the taxpayers, right? Like, if our officers are closing down Old Town, which they do, they got to get people to their cars, make sure fights don't break out, just there to protect and serve. And they look over and you got some, something happening, indoor auction happening downtown. And they go in and they're out of compliance. Like, why call the sheriff? Why not be able to initiate the reporting and giving information and doing that right there, right? Like, it will cost taxpayers more money if we start, if we have people on the scene who can fix it, but we have to like bring in other people because of some bureaucratic, I don't know, turf war, then yeah, I mean, I'm concerned about the idea of people whose job it is to do stuff even if they don't want to, right? Like, can you imagine our soldiers doing that? Like, can you imagine no, like we kind of, our system is set up where the lawmakers make the law and the policy, and then we have people who have sworn oath to carry that out. But
is PD willing to do that? Like, are they on board for enforcing? And the fire department, I know there's Wichita Police or Wichita Fire and Sedgwick County Fire, and they generally are the ones who will go into events and go into establishments and look at capacity and do code violations in those places. Are they willing to do that? Because I feel like if they're not part of the conversation and they're not part of the solution, the enforcement and the orders and the resolutions are just kind of grandstanding and talking versus actually working together to figure out how to keep us all safe and open.
Right. And that's the thing. So when I spoke with the city manager, so the city manager is in charge of all the administration. And even though I get in trouble because like I didn't get a plow truck to your road in time, like I'm not the guy sending out plow trucks, right? Like it's very similar in the legislature where we fund the school that Ann teaches at, but I can't call Ann and tell him to use a different textbook, right? Like, so very similar situation where, I have to go through the manager, and according to the manager, he had a conversation with the chief and they came to like an agreement on how this would work and how it would be, because you got to figure out that it really doesn't come down to, in my opinion, especially if you're an employee and not elected, like the sheriff's an elected, he's in a different spot. But if you're an employee and this is the policy of the city, then you kind of, you have to help uphold the policy. So my understanding is they came to a conclusion or an agreement about, I think it's more about you doing the reporting, not so much. And it's about also, I think, targets where like, we're not going to chase Sarah into the Quick Trip because she didn't wear a mask and slap her with a fine, right? Like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to, and like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, I think the goal is to shut down like willfully dangerous gatherings that are knowingly doing so out of compliance, and they're doing so in pursuit of a profit with just a disregard for the spread of this virus and how it affects people. And that's really what you're looking for, right? Like, you're looking for the people who are, I think, causing the most problems, not the person who, I guess, is holding a birthday party that's probably not smart to have, but if you got, that's different than someone who's trying to hold a mosh pit. And I hate to knock mosh pits, by the way. I can't wait for the emails after this where I'm going to get like from the people who do mosh pits who are like, don't target us. But you know what I mean? Any event where you have like lots of people, like hundreds of people together, unlawfully because of these orders. And the whole thing here isn't so much about, and we've been talking about this for weeks, so I don't think that I don't think there's anyone on this call who doesn't, who thinks differently on this. This isn't about like the short term, let's control everyone. This is about the long term, let's avoid a shutdown. Let's avoid this getting worse. Because we're at the point where, and I was on my last call with the partnership, and the chair of the partnership mentioned something about like freezer trucks driving in to because we'll be at more capacity. We'll be at capacity. We will start seeing preventable deaths, like not just people dying of COVID. We're going to see people who show up with chest pains, can't get a bed, told to go home, and then they have a heart attack at home, right? Like this, that's what we have seen throughout the country and really throughout the world. And that's the worst case, right? And the good news is, if there is like a silver lining here, we're talking weeks, not months, until we're at this. We're talking we're still talking a few months, but we are at the point where we can probably get, and I'm not in charge of this, I'm just repeating what I hear. With the process of at least a couple of the top candidates for the vaccines, we might actually be able to get some vaccinations to our healthcare workers, like start that tier process late December, right? Which would be huge. And if we can get that next phase, that third chapter, I guess, of the story, where we're actually going to be able to start rolling out vaccinations for the people most vulnerable of getting this and also most vulnerable of spreading this, we're going to we're going to be able to cut into those numbers of folks winding up in the hospital. So I think we got months until we all have access to something like that. But the bar when it came to the vaccinations was like we wanted to be 50% or better on effectiveness and being both safe and then also effective. The initial data from the phase 3 studies for at least 2 of the top vaccines in our country have shown 90% effectiveness, which is huge. Now, there's still some questions about that. So let's say, and I got like 3 people on my screen, so I'm picking on Shannon because she's one of them. So like, let's say Shannon gets the vaccine and also catches the virus, but then Shannon's body's like beating the hell out of the virus, right? Like it's not bothering her. She doesn't even know she has the virus. Can she still transmit that virus to someone else? That's what we don't know. Like, so there's still some questions about this on, once everyone gets vaccinated or once parts of the population get vaccinated, how long do we still take precautions? I think at the very least, once that vaccination starts coming out and we start giving it to people like my mother-in-law, like people who are in that dangerous category, people with pre-existing or underlying health issues, we're going to be in a much better spot. But we probably still will have some type of masking. We'll probably have some precautions for a little while until we get to a point where more people have access to the vaccine. And not just to the vaccine, but until we know, are you still contagious when you have the vaccine? And I mean, it's really the second generation vaccines are going to be amazing. First generation is always good, but it's going to probably take a little while until we get to that second generation of vaccine and medications that's going to really just put this thing to bed. But anyways.
I don't know how everyone, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know how everyone else feels about this, but I mean, I feel like it's inevitable that we're heading towards a shutdown. So, to debate enforcement doesn't really get us very far because I don't know that there's anything at this point that we can really do to avoid at least a 2-week shutdown. So I think we're already past that point. I think enforcement has proven that it's not working. I don't think that it's going to all of a sudden turn around this weekend, that things are going to be different. I don't see our county or city officials from a police standpoint really changing how things are enforced. So at this point, I think that's where we're heading anyways. And that's not to put it all on enforcement because I think there's a lot of reasons. I think Halloween, I think people are still planning on Thanksgiving. There are all kinds of reasons why this is inevitable. So at this point, from my perspective as a business owner, now I'm thinking, how do I prepare for that? And what do we do so that we can keep our people employed? Obviously, there was no second round of PPP. And, we've kind of scraped together what we can to hopefully get us through the winter. But right now, we're trying to figure out how do we keep our people employed so that they have jobs heading into the holiday season, because that to me is the most important thing. Like the thought of laying people off before Christmas is heartbreaking, and something that I never would think that I would have to do as a restaurant owner, just because that's our busy time. And people in the service industry expect that to be the busy time. So from my perspective now, I'm thinking, how can we pivot? What resources are out there to help us keep our people employed? I know that Andrew had thrown out the gift certificate idea, which I think is great. I wonder if, you see a lot of cities that are supporting restaurants by, having them do food for healthcare workers or homeless shelters, or, what I think at this point, I think we need to start thinking about how can we plan and what kinds of things can the city do to help us keep people employed. But that's just my initial thought going into today. It's been weighing heavily on me.
There's a discussion for a second round of PPP possibly coming in the next few weeks.
Well, and the thing is, we can't. Yeah, we can't count on that. It's like if we move to a shutdown, it's like if it's a time frame, say it's going to be 2 weeks. Like, tell us what it is, and because I'll be honest, I'd have to lay all my employees off if we went to a shutdown again. And it's like I'm doing whatever I can in my business to keep our doors open by all the policies and procedures we put in place back in June that we still do to this day, and we never let off on it because we knew this would probably happen. But it's like if they do start doing a shutdown again, I hope that the county or the city, whoever, or the state will give us a heads up it's happening and say this is only going to be like a 2-week time frame or whatever it is. I don't want this to happen. Trust me, I am totally against another shutdown because I feel like that would hurt. My business would probably close. And I don't want to go that route because I can't bank on a potential PPP that may come down the road. I struggled to get PPP because my business didn't exist in 2019. I may not get it the second round if it comes again. And so that's where, we've had, this is just really concerning because my business has followed so many policies and procedures to keep us open. The amount of cost we put in just to do and run our business like we're doing, to just to be told, nope, you're going to shut down.
Right. But how can you, you look at St. Louis, you look at, Chicago, you look all over the country, and we're obviously right behind them. So it's like, and they didn't get a lot of warning either. And so I don't expect to get any warning. And I wish you're right. It would be awesome.
But give us a time frame. Say it's only going to be for a certain time, because the last time we shut down, there was an unknown. When are we going to reopen? It took us 70 days before we could reopen again. I don't think that.
I agree with you. I would love to have some sort of time frame, but I think that a lot of that is dependent on the compliance of our community members to follow what's established and do what's right. And I don't know that they would be able to say, they may be able to say until we're down below 10% or 15% or whatever that criteria is. But I don't think that Men's or anyone at the county can say for sure, it'll be 3 weeks before we can reopen, or I don't know.
But
didn't we try that last time? This is Felicia. Didn't we try that last time that it was going to be a certain amount of time, and then we ended up being closed for 9 weeks?
Oh yeah.
I should jump in real quick. I like the discussion, but I do want to point out 2 things. One, on the last call I was on, the county manager said we're about 2 weeks behind Chicago. So as business owners, and policymakers, we're scenario planning. Usually, this thing is like a weather forecast. So we should be looking how other places are and preparing like you would a storm coming through. The other thing too is this is different if it does to go to a shutdown, and I'm not involved in that. That would be the county or the state or the feds, because the city doesn't do that. If it does come to a shutdown, we are different than last time because now we understand masking. So last time there was no defense to this thing at all. Now we understand that we can get the numbers down just by masks, where we went from 14% down to under 5% just using masks. So I think that this, if it was, and I can't stress that enough, I want to make sure that the media is watching, everyone's watching, no one's saying, hey, Whipple's talking about shutting down the city. I don't even have that authority. If we ever get to another shutdown, it'd be tough to compare it to the last one on how long that lasted, because I think they'd be looking for a reset, get the numbers down, a full-on reset, where if you're stuck inside for 2 weeks, shut down, then and you get this, or you have it, or you don't know, 2 weeks is it runs its course, right? So we should be different with it, but Jacob's 100% right. Where if you don't have predictability, that's when small businesses decide not to write that next rent check, right? Like that's what every month that a small business that's struggling has to write a rent check is when they decide if they're going to stay open. So not knowing if this is going to be 4 weeks or 2 weeks, I think that's a very valid concern. And I'll relinquish the floor and keep the discussion, kind of add that.
Yeah, no, this is not necessarily a discussion around states. I think this is a good discussion amongst business owners right now, because we're all feeling this.
And we feel the same thing at the schools. Trust me.
So one thing I'm going to add that some people are doing, and like I said, this is all scenario planning. I don't know if we call this scenario planning in your guys' world or in the business world, maybe crisis management, maybe some other terminology that MBAs use. But I've spoken with some folks who have said, yeah, we're telling our employees if you go and you visit your family for Thanksgiving, you have to take the next 10 days off. Where, is there stuff that I can't do as mayor? I can't tell everyone you got to take the next 10 days off if you go to Thanksgiving because you might have caught this and not know it. But we are seeing some leadership from our business community that are taking those steps. So there might be an opportunity, particularly with people on this call, because we have got kind of such a just a well spread out a group of individuals with different networks. Is there stuff like that people are thinking about implementing that could overall help keep those numbers stable getting into the next few weeks?
So this is Janelle. So back when we first reopened and I've re-implemented this, I'm not accepting new clients right now, which is hard because I need every dollar I can get. But I feel like with a new client, it's just too hard to predict, their history, where they go, where they come from, anything like that. And I feel like with my existing clientele, you have a built relationship. And that feels a little bit safer for me. I've also re-implemented kind of a travel plan for my existing clients where if they've traveled outside the state, I'm asking them to not book an appointment for 14 days for just that very reason you were kind of talking about, to give them a chance to see if any symptoms. And I know it sounds silly because you could catch it anywhere, anytime, but I feel like when you're traveling outside your community, your risk does increase because you're having, extra contact with people outside your normal group. So those are just two measures that I've tried to take to kind of mitigate any additional risk. So there's my 2 cents.
Also, I'm going to throw this out there. Wichita State's testing facility is close to up and running. And that might be something that could be a game changer for our small business community, and particularly for those who might be holding off on clients or people coming back to work. One of the difference with this than in county testing is the county one, you do like a nose brain swab pretty much. And I've done it 4 times. It's painful, like each time. This is actually, you spit into a little tube. They put it on your windshield. You grab it, you spit into the tube, you put it back on the windshield, they collect it. Why this is different is because you just need an observer to watch people spit instead of someone who's actually trained medically to stick something in your nose. So where am I going with this is it's like a brief training on how to be an observer. You could actually get people in your association, in your industry to become observers. I'm not going to pick on Shannon this time, go to Jacob's business, have all of his employees kind of spit while they're at work, into the little tubes and then send it off to go get tested, where they don't even have to leave. Wichita State's lab is now setting up like agreements with some of our big employers about that to try to get these connections going. I think that Adam just asked, that just popped up. I'm not sure if I know the question, I'm going to try to find it, but I think it was about the tests being, how accurate the tests are.
Yes, I've heard that the nose ones, you get 1 in 3 negatives are truly positive. And so I'm very curious, how much can we trust the results of these tests? And I know that the scientific community is doing their best at this moment, but still something.
Yeah, good question. So what we've found out so this saliva test is different than I think the one like at Walgreens. Like this one's actually like FDA approved. So I think there's different levels of saliva tests, and I think you're right. Some of the saliva tests are actually like only 70%, 80% accurate. And then, they're different. The most accurate one I think is the nose one. But how you mediate that is you have multiple, you have more tests pretty much. Like, so you might have the nose test once every time you come in contact with someone because it sucks and it takes a while and you got to make an appointment. With the spit test, you might have it, twice a week, right? Like, so, because it's quick. And so even though it's a lower percentage as far as being correct, when you add 2 of those in there, the percentage is much more likely, right? Like now you're averaging. But good point. Like we're still advancing the technology with the test. We're not there yet. And it's got to take multiple tests.
Brandon, you know how much the cost of it is going to be for that?
So I'm not sure. That's a really good question. I know that some CARES Act money is going towards it. And there is federal money that have been offsetting the cost for like the county. I'm just not sure.
Free right now. But
it's free right now? Okay.
Yeah, but it might, like, until that money might run out, and then it's $30 a test, I think.
Yeah, because like when is that WSU facility going to be up and running? Because I know one of my employees went and got some at WSU, but I don't know if that was what it was.
Not this, probably.
Yeah.
Because this, I think, is mainly employers apply for it.
Yeah.
And then you go pick up the tests and.
Because
I think it just started like a few days ago.
Because we employ a lot of college students, and I wrote that down of like when they leave for Thanksgiving, having them quarantine or not come into our work for 10 days. And so I'm just, because I know a few of them that are going back home, and I'm trying to encourage them not to, but that's, hard to tell your 20-year-old employee don't go home.
Yeah. The my understanding from kind of behind the scenes conversations, like I know it's an open meeting, but I have no filter. I'm telling you guys everything I hear in the background. So if you're media and you're watching this, please take this with a grain of salt. My understanding is they are at capacity to start doing stuff, but little things like the server, like the software in the background is still kind of pushing, right? Like, so it's not so much just collecting these and processing them. It's also being able to link them to people who requested it. By having that kind of the software that surrounds it, I guess, the database. So there's still some hiccups they're doing. I think we might call it like a soft opening, right? Like where we were able to get the test there, being city of Wichita, and kind of being in a loop. I'm not sure when it's going to get to the point where Jacob and all the facilities that are in the fitness sector, when they're going to be able to get in. But I know it's soon. Like they're ramping it up and they're getting there. The stuff that usually takes time, which is like how to process the test, that stuff's done. It's more about, I think, getting observers, which are hiring right now, I believe, which is an important thing we should also talk about is if we're laying off employees, there are temporary jobs out there now. So how do we kind of get that information to our employees so they just don't feel defeated? And then also, as they start beefing up, I guess, their infrastructure, it's going to allow more opportunities for people to get their employees tested. But it's close. It's not there yet. And I think that the stuff that's holding it back isn't the the high level stuff, if that helps.
I don't want to push too hard because this is a good conversation, but there's 4 or 5 other items on the list, and at least one more I want to throw on there, and it's getting kind of late.
Okay, sorry. Thanks for running the meeting, by the way.
Anytime.
I gave up on this, on finding the agenda. Go ahead.
Well, the next one could potentially cover some of the things we talked about. It's the plan in the event of another CRF distribution. I didn't write the agenda.
CRF distribution. Oh, by the way, and I don't have the agenda in front of me, but we were supposed to move the discussion about the Uber, the type of delivery services. I think we're moving that to next week or next meeting, and I was going to have also some of the government folks who work with those companies come in. So if we don't get to that today, that's what's going on. Did you say CRF? What?
Be coronavirus relief funds, I think.
Oh, okay. Do we have someone on from who could really, I guess, speak to that?
I can say what we've heard. Adam's currently on the phone with the lobbyist, so I can let you know everything we knew as of 9 o'clock this morning. Who knows? There's our lobbyist. She said she's the most hopeful she's been since August that something will pass before Congress adjourns. What is it, December 12th? They have to pass a continuing resolution to fund the government before then. So there's a hope that something will be attached to that. They're calling it with a cronulus bill or something. So there might also be an independent stimulus bill passed for that. Who knows? They are talking there will be some small business relief. They are thinking there's also going to be PUA, an extension of PUA, probably $400 a week on that. So that could, if that passes, that could be a big breath of relief for some of us who are really concerned about our employees. But again, so theoretically possible before December 12th. At the beginning of the week, they were thinking it might be at the end of next week. Now we're hearing maybe after Thanksgiving. Who knows?
But it's progress, we think, right? So we're hoping.
We've been told not to watch the news because, if every time you watch the news, it says, oh, it's falling apart, it's falling apart. And that's all public posturing. There is there are discussions between McConnell and Schumer and Pelosi and McCarthy. There are discussions going on. I haven't heard anything about the willingness from the president to sign anything if it is passed. Oh, here's Adam. Are there any updates today about things possibly passing?
No. It's all, the House isn't back.
Yeah, the House doesn't come back until next week. So this week it's just Senate. But I know, but Pelosi.
Yeah, I was going to say leadership would still be there working. So good. And just from my experience of a legislative environment, usually this is kind of this is normal, right? Where everything's up in the air. But if people are talking about it and if you have a bill that has to get passed, which means you have to have a vote on something, I think it's much more likely something will get passed just based off, what I've seen in politics. But we'll see. I hear that the Senate wants to make it a little more skinnier than the House does, so we'll see if it's enough. But
if I could add one more thing, if everyone would have a few spare minutes today, if you could go to saveourstages.com and just fill out a little form if you would like to help save our stages, because 90% of venues are on the brink of closing forever. So I know all of our businesses could use help. But this is just, what our specific industry is doing. So if anybody else has an industry specific thing we can do to help, we'd love to jump onto. But yeah, that's all I have.
All right. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this topic? Eventually, we're going to have fun, good topics to talk about. I promise. It just probably won't be when Anne's around. It probably won't be anytime soon. What What's next on the agenda?
Okay, Wayne Bell is supposed to have an update, but I don't see Wayne on the line, so perhaps use.
This is Sarah Haymaker. And so I'm the deputy director for the SBA. Wayne is in a meeting with HUD right now. So as far as an update, the whole legislation thing and PPP was just discussed. And yes, government funding runs out at midnight on December 11th. So obviously we need either a budget bill or another CR. We, like you all, have heard and looked at the various versions of plans that are out there as far as from the different groups. We had a call a couple weeks ago with some of the staffers from both the Senate and House small business committees on what they're looking at relative to PPP changes. Obviously, when the bills were initially written, we didn't anticipate still being here where we're at today. So there clearly is need for more stimulus, more help. What that looks like in the end, and if we get it before January, is just anybody's guess at this point. You probably are aware that there is about $130 billion of PPP funds still sitting there that we can't access. We do still have the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Funds. There is probably about the same amount, maybe 150 billion, 159, something like that, that's still available. Where we're struggling at this point is that there are a huge backlog of applications for people that were denied for various reasons or that now need an increase in their loan amounts, and they're going through the process of reconsideration. And if any of you have been through it, I'm very sorry, but it is taking several months, which is not real helpful at this point. There's a lot of reasons for that. The biggest reason for that is fraud. So if you know anybody or if you yourselves have received, what's happening right now is people are getting letters from SBA basically with like their first payment coupon, letting them know that they have a payment due in 12 months and here's how much their loan was and this is what their payment amount is going to be. People are getting those that did not apply for these loans. Businesses, people are applying in business names that business did not apply for a loan. There's an enormous identity theft problem happening. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation is aware of it, and I've been talking with them on what we can do to get the information to them they need to investigate for the Kansas residents. There are quite a few in Wichita so far. So that is happening a lot. The other way it's happening is legitimate businesses are finding out through their banks that a UCC lien has been filed on all of their business assets. And so that's really a big problem. So if you're hearing that from anyone, please have them reach out to us at SBA. And we've got a process ourselves. And then also OIG is investigating. You may have seen some of those reports. And again, I'm working with the KBI to kind of hopefully get some cooperation going. It's a little difficult when the DOJ is kind of over this, and since they represent us in these kinds of things. So we're having to get multiple agency cooperation in the U.S. Attorney's Office. We've got the Secret Service office here in Wichita involved as well. So let us know if you hear that. The other thing that's happened recently that you may not be aware of, but PPP change of ownership guidelines did come out. There is a lot of business transition happening, and there's a lot that's wanting to happen before the end of the calendar year. Whether it's, people that are doing okay are buying additional businesses or people are trying to get out. There's a lot happening. So that guidance is out there now. Anybody that's trying to sell a business that's got a PPP loan, the best thing they need to do is establish an escrow, interest-bearing escrow account for the full amount of their PPP loan and go ahead and apply for their forgiveness. So, and as far as forgiveness goes, there's a backlog from when people first started submitting them in August until we actually started processing them in the first week of October. And the reason that delay was there, in my personal opinion, because it's not been said officially, But I believe the reason for the delay is we, like everybody else, were waiting for that legislation from Congress that was going to allow the blanket forgiveness of PPP loans that were for $150,000 or less, which would have covered over 90% of all PPP loans. So we kind of had to scramble and do something that we could within our own authorities, which was the $50,000 or less. So that's a very streamlined process. Banks are getting those funds back and people are getting their loans forgiven. So that's kind of just a quick update of where we're at, desperately waiting for the legislation so that we can start getting some more funds out there.
I have a question on EIDL loans.
Yep.
We keep on hearing rumors, and I really would like them to be true, that there's consideration for EIDL loans to turn into grants under a certain amount. Have you heard anything about that? Again, I just heard it as rumors. And
no, I've not heard that at all.
That's what I thought, but
Yeah, that program is actually pretty old. It's not new. It's not part of CARES. Now, there were some changes made to it because of the CARES Act and COVID. One of the things that we are really hoping is for people that got that EIDL advance that was supposed to be, they called it the advance, and it could become a grant. But if you had a PPP loan, it affects your PPP loan, and then you end up with a balance for that advance or grant amount on your PPP loan. It says it very clearly in Section 1110 of the CARES Act that we have to do that. But in speaking with some of the staffers on the Hill for the committees, that wasn't Congress's intent, not really. So that needs to be fixed. So that's in consideration to go ahead and truly make that a grant and not have people end up with these 1% small loans for up to $10,000. The lenders don't want that either, because the lenders are like, I didn't sign up for this. You didn't tell us this up front. So hopefully getting fixing that. And then also there's some tax implications with both things. And, and with some of the senior staffers saying it was not Congress's intent to make this a tax penalty for anybody. So, and the IRS has issued very little as far as how these are going to be treated. We know EIDL itself does not impact your taxes because it's a straight up loan. But the way all of these things are kind of getting wrapped up with each other, there could be some tax implications once that item that was supposed to have been a grant or an advance now becomes a loan. And and we haven't gotten clear guidance from whether the EIDL advance grant is going to count as taxable income. So there's still a lot that needs to be fixed. Congress is very well aware of where, and the legislation was put together very quickly. And so all of these things that are happening after the fact in the implementation, they're finding them out and recognizing they've got to be fixed because this was not the intent to hurt anybody through this process.
Other questions on this item? I did finally pull up the agenda, by the way, so I only took an hour.
I was having fun.
Apologies. Well, thanks for the update. Definitely look forward to hopefully getting an update when something passes on how we can access it, right? So we'll keep an eye on Washington. The next item I have is board member rotation, and this is going to be just kind of a quick, pretty much this group's amazing. So I'm going to reappoint everyone unless you can't serve another 3 months. If you can't, please shoot me an email. I'm not the only one that checks my email. Janet checks it too. So I ask people to shoot an email because it has a couple eyes on it. So I don't have it drop between the cracks, I guess. If you can't serve another 3 months, please let me know. And also, if there is someone you think should be on this call as well, after being on as long as we have and knowing the conversations we're having, please shoot me their name and I'll get them on this call as well. We'll get them appointed. So yeah, so my goal is to keep this going with the current group, even if you've already served last time and on this time. I think we have a really good mix of people here. So I want to reappoint everyone. But for some reason, if you say, hey, I've only signed up for 3 months, I really got to focus on something else, that's completely understandable. Just let me know. And if there's, we've had some people drop off. So I think we have some room where, some people I think got in and then that are technically on the list, but haven't been on a call because of life. We have room to appoint other people as well. So if someone should be on this call, let me know. And make sure there's someone who won't embarrass me if I appoint them. Like, please don't nominate someone with like some crazy sketchy background and then I have to explain it later. So
one thing I want to echo, I mentioned it at the first part in the chat, was like, once like we're through COVID, hopefully that, comes sooner rather than later. But I really like this group and talking more about the business community of Wichita and really focusing in on. I know that was the purpose of these advisory councils originally, but I hope once we get through this, we can really revisit that and really focus on how do we get Wichita back on the trajectory we were at before COVID, because I think that's so essential for us to come out on the other side of this more positive, more just progress, those sort of things. I just want to just say that.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And like, I can't stress enough how much I can't wait for us to be not only over this, but to be out touring your guys' businesses, to, have these turn into where we got the core group, but then we have lunches where we can have people bring people that they know who might not want to serve 3 months, but show up to a lunch and brainstorm with us all. I do think we're towards the end of this situation with the virus. I do think we're going to start getting to a better spot. And we got to start talking about what that next economy looks like, particularly for small businesses. But really, we will be in kind of a new world, I think. I think with Zoom, with people working from home, we're just going to be in a different economic situation moving forward. So getting through this next 3 months, the meetings after that hopefully will be a lot more about growth than it is about preservation. So I agree.
Can I piggyback on something Jacob just said, especially for those of us located downtown? I think we've all been hit the hardest. I would love, something we've sort of discussed is we'd love to do something all of us together, especially, if there is some extra CARES money that would be at the discretion of the city. I don't know if that would actually happen with the next round, because I know the city had its hands tied this last time, but maybe if we could do something like a large community event, just welcome back, if we could all work together to do something like that, because I think not only are we dealing with a medical crisis, I think the social schisms that have come about because of this, I think we could all really work together to help that, and also get our businesses more money, because we'll need that at the end of this too. But that would be, I would love to discuss once we start having actual access to large amounts of vaccines and hopefully therapeutics as well.
I mean, I'm 1,000% with you. Like, let's kick off the next chapter, right? Like, I mean, we had to cancel literally everything fun this time around. Like
I know
Megan,
you guys are second.
Megan, who's on the is what?
I'm supportive that y'all did that. I don't want to be
right.
Have our naps, but
no,
yeah.
But I'm not. Like, I'm supportive we did it too, but also, I got some ground to make up, like, I'm the first mayor. We didn't have 4th of July. We didn't have open streets. We didn't have Riverfest. Megan, who's on a call, sometimes I don't think she likes me, because she kind of chuckles where, hey, we just canceled the tree lighting. Ha ha ha. That's everything fun that the mayor gets to do. You now missed all of it. Right. So, and she's right. And right now we're doing the right thing. But I kind of feel like we got some fun to make up on. Right. So once we get beyond this, I agree. Let's have that conversation about really how do we make a huge, I guess, event downtown, bring people in who have to celebrate the end of this. And I think it's going to be a big economic boom, but also kind of that push just within ourselves, kind of that moral push, right? That makes us feel better about getting through what has been just an awful year. So yeah, that's a good point. We should be having the people on this call in the small business community front and center on how we can start rolling out a celebration. And yeah, because we've canceled all of them.
Start planning when you're ready.
Right. Well, and that's something I look forward to, right? So, if we need something positive to look forward to, we will get through this. And let's make sure we make up for lost time when it comes to having fun and celebrating as a community. I mean, we're supposed to have 150-year celebrations. Well, let's make sure we celebrate the 151st year, right? As a city, like let's double down on this. So
could I ask a question about something city related that has nothing to do with anything on the agenda and I hope it's not gossipy, but I have been curious, what is going on with the baseball stadium? I know that the owner of the team unfortunately did pass away. And I'm just curious, is there any information that you can share that you have available in regards to the future of that?
So, Lou died of COVID early on. And he was the visionary. He was the guy who really had the organization just reaching for the stars. We did get a meeting with the folks who took over after Lou, who've been in the room and committed to Wichita. We have one of the best stadiums in the country, just hands down one of the best, because it's brand new, it's amazing. Now, some of the talk is about reshuffling with baseball as an organization, I guess. And I don't know enough about baseball to really speak to this. And all of the baseball stuff happened before I was elected. But what I do know is that there is some reshuffling happening with, what is AA versus AAA, where teams are going, what cities are doing what. I'm not really, a lot of stuff's in the air, and that's why I'm being reported on. A lot of stuff's kind of in the air right now, and we're not exactly sure what changes are definite and if what changes will be long lasting, right? We are sure that we can deliver a really incredible fan experience where what makes us a little different and kind of the silver lining with this is our baseball stadium isn't just about baseball. Like it is, there's a lot to do with baseball, but we have really the fan experience is going to be amazing. Like as far as bars around there, as far as stuff that we have going on, it's going to be pretty awesome fan experience. And that's really what drives numbers up. So, I think Jacob just says that he thinks we're going down to a AA instead of a AAA team. That's some of the stuff I've been hearing, but it's been coming from the media a lot. And I don't know if anything is completely set in stone yet. We're going to find out, but it'll probably be the next couple of weeks. But again, when it comes to, I guess, utilizing the facility and getting to the economic impact, it's a lot of it's also about fan experience. But on the flip side, people were promised a AAA team and they got a AA team. There's a kind of a moral gut punch associated with that too, right? Where in kind of that Wichita, I think history where we might have been promised something and didn't get what was promised, and people lose faith in the city because of that. So, I'm worried about it as far as that aspect. But again, I think we're still technically waiting for everything to settle and to see what's happening. Like, I wish I could give you better information than that. That's just what I've been hearing at this point.
I really need to ask you guys a question. We're at the 10:15 mark, so and I don't want to wait 2 weeks to put someone off. Is it okay if I share like my other item before we adjourn?
Yeah, people have to get off. You can get off now, but yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we were asked to look into a project to be able to develop a list that could potentially be sort of like self-curated information that could be kind of managed and monitored and maintained by someone else. We're being vague on that because we got to figure out who these players are. A team of developers has come to me and said that they would be willing to do it. I have a funding source, a partial funding source to help get this tool up and running. And they're going to rapidly do this for us. This is why I don't want to wait, because if we wait 2 more weeks, we've lost 2 more weeks of, safe dining out or safe business doing whatever we do. The thing is, we need to know exactly what we want this tool to accomplish. So thinking about it, again, the vision is Mayor Whipple wants to be able to take his wife to dinner somewhere. Where do they go? That's just the example, but it could also include other businesses, like, I don't know, Shannon's services that she provides, or it could be the real estate agent or the law firm or whatever. What protocols are in place, et cetera. So there's a lot of moving parts here. The team that I've talked to, ideally is going to be funded through a nonprofit organization and potentially some other donors, but they ultimately want to give this tool to some entity to keep it going for the duration, because they can't possibly manage this program. It's not in their wheelhouse, but they can develop the tool. It's likely to go onto your phone rather than just to a website to be not seen by anybody. It is really accessible. It's heavily developed based on maps, so that you can, it's really useful. It's not just a list. It's more like it could drive me to the location potentially. So I would love feedback in an email or on the chat or somewhere that I can copy and paste as to like what you would like to see, what could it accomplish, because I need to turn that over to them to then put the formal presentation together so we can find out what it's going to cost. So Andrew, let's talk offline about this as well, because I had my policy person look into what other communities are doing as far as like take the COVID safe pledge or whatever, and then you get access to to graphics so that you can promote that you're going to be a COVID safe, that you understand these protocols and so on. I actually gave that to the partnership yesterday to Floor, and hoping that they could do something with it, because they're good with PR and output. But having an app, having what you're talking about, might even be another avenue that I've never thought of. So, but I can give you she took like these 3 different programs, and we talked about kind of what were the best of each of those programs, and made it into a sheet pretty much, or policy outline. So that might get you guys further into what you're looking for.
Could we have an element on it as well that's maybe a safe place for people to call out places that aren't adhering to basic safety protocols, and maybe make that information public? I think that I think a lot of people are going to be doing the right things, and I think we should promote that all day. But there's a lot of people that are quietly not doing the right things, and people don't have an outlet right now, or don't feel as if they have an outlet to expose that. So I think that's an element too, is let's promote the ones that are doing the right thing, and let's call people out who aren't.
So I could see there maybe being, if there is a way to report people like we had in the past, I think that's one part, like from the legal perspective for follow-up. And then also, I'm curious how we would do that, to be it like a chat versus like a forum essentially. Is it subscriber? Is it not? That kind of stuff. But, how do you vet it out? Who's going to follow up and make sure it's legit? Because anybody could go online and call out someone else, because I don't know, maybe there's competing burger joints or something that just want to make the other one suffer. I don't know.
No, you're right. Yeah.
It could maybe require substantiation with, photo evidence or something.
Or it's just a way to check in, I think you're right. You're going to get the people who are just disgruntled for one reason or another, or want to damage somebody. But there's probably going to be a majority that are legit, that there's an actual issue occurring. And I don't know if that wraps up into enforcement, or if there even is enforcement for that type of thing at this point, or if there will be. But I think that there needs to be some outlet, because I think a lot of people feel like they don't really have a voice when something's going tragically wrong at certain places, and their employers are threatening their job or whatever if they say anything. So it almost has to be an anonymous form or something, where it could go to somebody who is tasked with actually vetting that issue out and seeing if there's an actual problem there. And I don't know.
It might be an emoji or something you click, right? Like where you don't have to give a description, but like, did you feel safe? And you click like someone, like a face with a thermometer in their mouth or something. Or your interpretation of the COVID safety, and like there, it might not have to be too detailed. I will tell you, the last call I got about people not following COVID was a cake shop. So it wasn't bars, it wasn't restaurants. It was like literally people who are making cakes. And she actually asked, why aren't the people making cakes wearing masks? And the owner said, we're not enforcing that. So, I mean, that's the type of information I would like to know, right? Like just to Adam's point, where I don't want someone baking a cake right now for my kids who isn't wearing a mask. Yeah, I think it would be very helpful, but yeah, I think you got to figure out what the best way to implement that is. And that's the app maker probably knows a lot more than, someone like me would know.
And I'm thinking beyond like public retail restaurant type places. I'm thinking even more in the, manufacturer, just random businesses that there is no public face to. It's, it's employers who aren't taking this seriously and putting their employees at risk.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all seen on our social media accounts people floating their frustration around, but there's no centralized source.
Or, I don't want to point any industry specifically out, but like churches or other events or anything that any sector of the community who's disregarding this, that's going to be causing some spread. So,
well, I think one way you could potentially utilize technology to gather information to like reach out to all these organizations somehow, potentially, if it's public data, they can maybe reach out and then ask these organizations to submit what they are doing. Perhaps the checklist that Mayor Whipple has brought up could be like, just check these boxes if you're doing these things, so that we can then have something to reference when you see someone not doing it. That becomes the evidence that says, well, you say you're doing this, but then the people are saying you're not. So then you either have to change your policies or enforce them, or take you off the list at some point. So it has to be user-defined or user-driven content. That has to be the way, because there's just no way, there's no money to pay a person $100,000 a year to like follow all these leads and do all this work. It has to be community supported somehow. So that's what I'm hoping the technology can allow them to do. The bigger question is also, we spend the time and money to develop this, and maybe you could have a crude version in 2 weeks and then it could be used during the pandemic, but then eventually the pandemic goes away. Can this be turned into a tool that, whoever the final entity that owns this can use to help better the community? And I'm leaning on my screen towards Mayor Whipple's. The city would be a great place to house this information, and it's going to be a gift packaged and delivered to whoever takes it. That's going to potentially have a $50,000 to $100,000 value to it. I mean, from a tech developer's perspective, for free. And so we would like someone to take this who will continue it somehow. So also, what does this turn into later? That would be great. So I'm not saying we're going to offer to you, but I'm saying that we might offer to you.
If you want to give me $100,000 worth of tech, I'll definitely take it. We'll talk about that. I'll give you a certificate afterwards if you want. But yeah, let's talk offline about it, because I do think that there's that. What's the role of the city, right? And is it about the keeping the database up to date? What can we do, I guess, to help get us all through this? So yeah, let's chat about that as well. But we're open. I think as a city, we're trying to figure out how we can be most effective. So.
And I saw some comments about churches and exemptions, and I'm not going to argue that they don't have exemptions from the law. They don't have exemptions from people asking and people sharing the information, and therefore we should use a tool like this when we can't, I guess, identify, or we can't. We need to point to the problem, and if they're part of the problem, their exemption is not exempt from being sick or whatever. They just nobody wants to fight them in the courts, So
I just wonder if all that might be moving away from the spirit of the project as Mayor Whipple presented it to us, which was to highlight people who are doing the right thing.
No, I agree that it should be about the churches stepping up and saying this is what we are doing, and the exemptions don't really matter to us because we are doing our best, And I know a few that are really doing a good job.
Sure.
I'm in agreement about that as well. I think that there's so much negativity going on right now that it'd be nice if we could keep the two of them separate, because everybody needs some positivity right now. And if some people are thinking, great, I'm going to get on there and I'm going to see things about something being negative when they really just want something positive, it almost feels like they need to be two separate things so that we can find something good. Because wasn't wasn't the original reason to find a place, like you said, where can the mayor take his wife to eat dinner? Thinking, wow, there's some happiness here. Thinking, wow, there's some happiness here. Let me get on here and see that our community is, saying something positive and there's no negativity going on here. Because once you add that element of it, whether we like it or not, it always lately with what's going on seems to come back to being political. And it would be so nice if there was nothing like that involved, where it was just like, you know what, we as a community are super happy because this is what we're doing and people can go out and this is why.
That should be the way it goes. So, and that is the spirit of the entire thing. I think the part Adam brought up, the negativity side, could potentially be housed somewhere else, but that doesn't mean you can't report someone anonymously to the authorities and it stays off that screen. It just alerts someone to maybe someone who is not following the rules they set for themselves, and they don't deserve a place on a platform if they're not actually following the rules they say they state. So there has to be a way to vet people out.
Well, I don't want to approach it from a negativity standpoint. I want to approach it from a reality standpoint. We can pretend everything's great, but everything's not great. And so I think as real as we can be, and I'm sick of the argument. I'm sick of the politics. Like, we all know what reduces spread. It's proven by science. It's not that hard to understand. So let's just get past that and let's call out what's real, what's not, and let's just move on, and let's be real about it. Let's not be scared of the fact that, there's deniers of things, and let's just be honest and be like, that they don't believe in doing this thing that's been proven to stop the spread. And that's cool. That's on them. But if you do believe in that, you might not want to go there. Or, also, there's been this huge disempowerment of workers right now. And so, possibly empowering our workers, I see that as a huge positive. If people feel like they can be safe when they go to work, I think that's only going to benefit our community as a whole moving forward. Whereas if people feel like they don't have a voice when they go to work and they're in unsafe conditions, they're probably going to be pretty upset, and it's going to have a ripple effect. And maybe they'll just say, screw it, we're going to move away. We're going to go somewhere else. So, I think we have a tendency, especially in the Midwest, to gloss over the real points and what's the hard conversations. And I think that can be a problem. I'm not saying I want anything to be negative or pessimistic. I just want it to be real.
Everybody needs a voice to be heard. I agree with that 100%. But I also think really just to keep, whether we're not looking at everybody that's logical and thinks of it in that sense. Some people become so emotional that, and not that they're doing it on purpose, that what they end up doing becomes negative and then drags people down, because sometimes people just cannot have a calm, constructive, compromising discussion. That's all I'm trying to say, is it would be great to have some positivity within our community coming together. Not that I don't think that there shouldn't be the other, but it would be fantastic if there could be a separation between the two, so people know this is a positive place to come. So we as the community know what's going on here positively. There's no room for any kind of political fighting or just, some of the stuff that's going on with different things. And I get what you're saying. Yes. Do both need to be heard? Absolutely. 100%. Everybody deserves to be heard on anything that they're discussing, but not everybody is willing to be kind enough to listen to other people. And the reality is we have to think about that too, is that not everybody's kind enough or has open ears. We all should be, but it really would just be nice to have.
Oh, sorry, Felicia. Go ahead.
No, you're okay, love. Go ahead.
Something I've wondered, and again, like every other issue in the world, it goes back to funding. It seems like right now we could really use an ad campaign, like going to your spot. We need something to bring our community together. And I've wondered if there's like an ad campaign could happen on like billboards. And I know I was on another Zoom call yesterday where I know there's a lot of billboard companies donating space, but something about like, and the wording would have to be very careful, considering the current social climate that we live in. But so something to help unify us, to stop looking at somebody as like, well, you're an anti-masker, or you're, there's just so much division. Would there be somehow
Agreed.
So I have a fun idea. So I've listened, I like all the ideas, and that's funny that you were saying that, because my suggestion is that we get the city going on, I like the whole positivity of that. But, I've seen some really fun ways to encourage people to wear masks that business owners are doing, and I still think my favorite one that I've seen is, wear a mask or we're going to take the temperature the other way. And I really liked that one. And so, if we could maybe stop all the politicalness of the mask, wear the mask, don't wear the mask, if we can just really focus in on maybe doing a contest, something fun that's going to get people involved and wearing the mask. So, show us your best, things that have to do with fighting the mask, with involving your customers in the mask rule,
Change the message.
Start doing positive ways for the mask and it not be so negative all the time. We could have a contest of who has the best mask, and I'm just saying, if we can get around all of the political stuff and really start focusing on, the positives of why it's important or the funny parts of it, let's get the marketers out there, I still think that there is ways to encourage, and we just kind of need to move away from all of the other areas. But again, still the funniest one I've seen. And I know there's more. So if we could figure out a way to, monopolize on that, I think
Agreed.
We're a lot more.
Turn it into something other than using the word mask. Maybe something focused around community. You know how people will be like, if you're in another country, take a picture of yourself with the Wichita flag. Instead of using the word mask, just basically, what have you done in your community today? And show your love to the community. Because everybody, I would like to hope and think that no matter what your political affiliation is, we all love our community. We love Wichita. Nobody wants anyone to get sick. People want to get along. I think most people really are good. I think it's all about wording. Wording can make people so upset just from one little word.
Absolutely. So I'm just saying, let's turn it into a fun thing. Everybody likes a contest.
So, let's kind of think about ways we could do that. I think my thought when it came to the, bye, Burke. Thank you. When it came to, I guess, having almost a ranking system on people who are doing things right, and maybe it becomes almost free market driven, where you want to be at the top of this list. You want to be, you want to be that business that's really going above and beyond to keep people safe. So, but also the positivity aspect of it. That's one of the reasons why I reached out to the partnership yesterday, is because they have a PR team, and we all are influencers in our own circles. So maybe we should be thinking about and continuing this conversation on our on our Facebook page here about what would be kind of the same tune that we're singing. What could we do as somewhat of a media push or PR push to be positive and try to change the narrative? I think that would be very successful, because everyone's done with negativity at this point. The election's over. I think we're all pretty fried on just the negative stuff. What can we do to kind of get us back?
I just want to throw out there that one idea would be to, if we did some sort of PR campaign, is to get real citizens, people that are leaders, or just average everyday people, to admit openly that they prefer to go to places that give them the sense of safety. A lot of business owners are afraid to lose customers because of, mask. I went to an office the other day to deliver a product, and there was like 4 offices that officed in one space, and nobody wore a mask, and there's maybe 50 or more people. They tried to stay to their little cubicles, but it's all open air. And I'm thinking, well, maybe they just don't want to be perceived as being weak or not strong or, I don't know, wussies or un-American or whatever the hell they think. And the fact is like, I think the majority of people are okay with this. It's just a very small group of people that are influencing everybody else. So just get the word out. It's okay to wear a mask. Nobody cares. I'm over it. And I can wear one and you should too. And I'll go to places that do that. So maybe they go, well, maybe we should. And so, so they're more prepared, I guess. So, and that's a great positive campaign.
A mix between business owners or community leaders and people who are, just people are part of the community, getting the mix of those two, just to highlight all the different facets of our community.
I got an email from a friend who sells advertising for like a local over-air TV station, and they offered like a ridiculously low cost to produce some commercials for a promotion we're doing up and down Douglas. And I mean, it's like public access TV cost. I mean, it's like $50 a business, $600 for 900 impressions or 900 commercials over the course of the next 5 to 6 weeks. I mean, even that hits some people's audience. It's pretty cheap to and I think they're just trying to do what they can to help the community. This would be a good place to get real low cost PR put out there, probably to an audience that, would listen or would at least get the message. So
Mayor, did you say that there is marketing people available for this, or would we need to find people to create the content? I missed what you were here.
I don't know if there's any funding available for this, for marketing. I mean, I barely have any access for the stuff I do, but what we can do is utilize, we could utilize our own social media and our own stuff. I mean, if there was like a 900 impression commercial, or multiple commercials for a super cheap price to try to do a campaign like this. As a elected, my thought originally when you just said that was, I bet I could fundraise that money into my campaign account and then run like a campaign through that, right? Like there's probably ways we could pull together resources if we were going to utilize some type of PR push that's more organic, that's coming from the community than from the county or the city. That's something we should be talking about if we want to go that route for sure. And also we want to promote small businesses getting having people buy local online. So eventually the chamber is working on a website. I've been working with them to kind of put a bunch of small businesses online that have the ability to buy gift certificates and such. So we might be able to promote that website, utilize some of their resources while also being fun by promoting masks and such. Like there might be a collaborative approach to this.
All right, so I'm going to follow up with you all with information as it comes. I'm going to take what we talked about and try to put together a framework and get information from these developers and the funding sources. And if you know anybody that would also want to participate and fund, I'm guessing it's going to be between $5,000 and $20,000 that we're going to look to try to raise. And I don't think it'll be a problem at all. I've already got one business operator that's probably willing to match whatever the other donor is. So hopefully that will get there.
Okay. All right, guys.
Legwork on that, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Andy.
It's a few emails and a bunch of other really important people. Trust me. But the partnership, by the way, that's a really good fit. That's actually an excellent connection. That'll triple the amount of money potentially we can get if we go through the partnership as well.
Yeah, we have potential, I think, with the folks on this call that go beyond my reach as mayor. And, I think we got a lot. We can bring a lot of people to the table by reaching out to some of our networks. So,
who is the person?
All right, guys, we're over the time, and I gotta eat a sandwich before my next meeting. So, I think we gotta probably wrap it up. Is there any further discussion in the next? That'll only take a few more minutes. I think now we take this call offline.
The next meeting is
November 27th meeting you had written down as being a holiday. Do we want to reschedule or wait until December 11th? I vote to reschedule and do it. I don't want to wait.
Especially with the way this call ended, we should reschedule.
So reschedule for the 11th or stay on the 27th?
Reschedule. Yeah, I'm going to be that day. I'm not going to be sitting in a chair easily.
Okay.
Not that we're going to go see family. We're just going to eat all the food we would normally make for the whole family.
Okay. All right. So the 11th then.
Oh, no, I think we'd like to reschedule before that. Would we want to bump it next Friday or earlier the week of Thanksgiving?
We want to do it the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, like the 25th.
We'll probably do that.
Theoretically, we can do that. Let me look. So that's the 25th.
All right. So Jan Johnson just chimed in because I'm all like, oh no, I got to write this down and not forget to tell Janet. But I think she's actually listening in. So let me get to my chat feature.
Can someone also, Janet, would you please email out the chat that happened today since there was a lot? Please, thank you.
Probably cut and paste it. Yeah. So all right, let's go ahead and schedule before the 27th. Maybe Janet can send out an email and see what people think on either Wednesday or next Friday or something. Keep this conversation going. And of course, if people can't make it, they can't make it. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I think I agree. I think we should get a meeting going before.
I would like to meet if it's possible on the Keep It Friday, simply because I know on the 18th you've got a meeting with the City Council regarding the Sedgwick County enforcement. It'd be a good time to follow up. Plus, I want to get this stuff done before then. So, but that's
actually smart. Yeah, because I could give you guys a full-on update on what really happened. What went in. So yeah, let's do it next Friday then, if we don't mind.
Works on our end.
And once again, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure being part of this, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks for everything you do, man. Stay in touch.
Thank you, Ian.
All right. So next Friday we will meet. Janet will send out the stuff, and we will continue this discussion. I think we'll make some progress on it. But other than that, I got 11 o'clock, and like I said, I got to go grab something to eat real quick. Is there any other discussion? No, I was gonna say that we should jump off and continue this on our Facebook, and then come back next week. Cool.
Bye-bye.
See you all next Friday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye.